Anti-racism is anti-Australian hate. That's the title for a public meeting being held by Australia First Party at 725 Princes Highway, Tempe on Saturday, the 25th of July, between the hours of 1 p.m. and 4 p.m. Why would we want to do a meeting on anti-racism? Well, some people assume that anti-racism is the opposite of racism. If they assumed that, they'd be making a major mistake in fact. Anti-racism is not the opposite of racism. We could define racism as a belief by a rather silly person that he was better than someone else based upon grounds of race. Or alternatively, he wanted to do harm to a person based upon the grounds of race. Or possibly a policy directed towards person or persons that does harm or damage and peculiarly based and particularly based upon race. That might be racism. Now, racism exists in many countries, and certainly not just Australia if it does. But anti-racism is not targeted at that type of racism. Quite the contrary. Anti-racism is an ideology, a very specific thing, based upon the issue of race. But what it does is it targets anyone with an identity or a heritage, anyone interested in preserving lifestyle or workplace rules and regulations, and calls that racism. Anti-racists are then mobilised to break down those things in the society, setting up a new yardstick for values and ideas. Some people say that anti-racism is almost like a psychosis in which people, called anti-racists, target people they perceive as racist for any, if you like, infraction of their rules as to how they feel the society should organise. The hapless racist finds himself targeted for harassment and indeed even violence by anti-racists. At this meeting, we intend to tell you and explain to you that anti-racism exists in Australia in politics, in culture, in the media, in community groups, the workplace, the school, the university, everywhere, where people will endeavour to compel you to conform with the new line. We intend to explain why this is in fact bad and why it is that there should be an Australian resistance in the defence of heritage, identity, jobs, culture and so forth by way of reply. But we expect our peaceful meeting to be counter-demonstrated against by a particular group of these anti-racists, the most fanatical of all of them, who happen to call themselves anti-fascists, while in fact behaving very much like the fascists of their own imagination. These people, drawn from so-called socialist groups or the anarchists, sometimes calling themselves Antifa or anti-fascist, are the most extreme in that regard. In holding this meeting, we do not intend to be deterred by them. Quite the contrary. Despite, in the past, threats of violence, threats of assault and actual assault carried out upon nationalist activists and supporters, it has not deterred us. The best way that you can show that you are sceptical of this philosophy of anti-racism, that you are suspicious as to its nature and quality, is in fact to turn up at the meeting. Secondly, you could fund the meeting through Australia First. Or alternatively, again, you could publish for your friends and acquaintances the video record of this meeting. This meeting is being organised at a very particular time. All the way throughout Australia, all across our country, different groups are coming into being which are sceptical about various aspects of anti-racism, about immigration, about the multicultural society, about the impact that this might have on the environment or any number of things. These groups, Australia First, is of course part, if you like, of a very broad resistance to the politics of globalisation, and that in fact is what anti-racism directly relates to. Indeed, it is so frightfully convenient that this pseudo-moral philosophy which is being put up to Australians is actually useful for those who command the financial and other economic wealth in Australia in breaking down borders and barriers. Of course, it's always a question of who pays, who benefits. In the discussion of anti-racism on the 25th of July, we hope to explain all of these things in their context, and your panel of speakers will do their best, amidst the disorder that will be occurring not too far away, to explain those issues to you. As for me, I hope I see you on the 25th of July. Thank you.